Hey y'all, and welcome back to Dr. Mandy Unedited, the podcast where we talk about research, writing, and academic realness. My name is Dr. Mandy, and I'm your new unofficial PhD advisor. This week, I want to talk about how to find a job in research after your PhD. This is a question that I have gotten a lot. I've seen sputtering around the internet all the time, so I want to give you some tips of things that I have used that have made me very successful in my post-PhD journey. But first, I've got the goss. I've got the goss for all of my friends who are not necessarily into academic writing and research and just want to keep up with Mandy's life. Let's talk about my bottomless brunch adventures recently, y'all, okay? So, this past weekend, I had my first unaccompanied by my partner brunch. And it was a ladies' night, y'all. It was a ladies' night. So this was the first time I went out without my partner, and he had something else to do, and this was my first time going out with the ladies. So it really was a test of my stamina. Look, to be real with you, I'm quite introverted. And when I was like in the US, I was just working my little tush off all the time. So I didn't really have a lot of time to go out and meet people and make friends and all that good stuff. So coming to the UK has also been just like a really big learning curve because my partner is a person that likes to be sociable and go out. And I've learned so much about how to be a meaningful friend from him, which is something that I really love about him. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel sometimes it's kind of weird being 34 years old and haven't really mastered drinking or going out. So yeah, I had a really great time with the ladies. We hit up like a bunch of locations. I was really like, look, this is really me being proud of myself, okay? Like, I went to a bunch of different spots. I had a drink at every spot. And at the end of the night, I went to the kebab shop like everyone in the UK does. And I got my own ride home. Usually, I am a little bit nervous about riding home on my own. Yeah, again, I think it's just like a residual US kind of feature, like the UK, it's pretty safe, it's pretty decent, and I don't really feel uncomfortable even walking alone at night or stuff like that. But, it's so sometimes in your head, you get this little like mental block. But really, the thing I wanted to mention is like how strange it is to be not worried about impressing people. I think like when you go out, you see all these young people who are dressed to the nines, ready to show off, and it's nice just to be able to be like, you know what, I got my man at home. I don't have to, like impress anybody, look great for anybody. But it was funny because there were some young men out on the prowl, and I think some of my friends were quite keen on flirting with them. And so I thought it was kind of funny that when I was, we were sat with a group of guys in the UK. Another kind of like weird thing is like y'all don't mind being up in each other's business when it comes to like going out. So for example, like if there's a table and there's like, maybe like 6 chairs, but there's only 3 people in the chairs, it's quite common for other people to come up and be like, hey, can we sit here at the table with you? Which I don't really think like, like in the US, I think like a lot of people kind of keep to themselves, especially in like the bar culture, just because, yeah, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. But I was sat with a group of these young guys, and I feel like, I don't know, they were trying their hardest to impress us, y'all. And it was so funny because, first of all, look, if you know my partner, if you know what he does, like it's hard to stand up to that, right? It's hard to see if any other dude could be, anywhere as impressive as my partner. And I mean, of course, I'm a little bit biased because I mean, like, I just think he's the most fantastic dude in the world. But I just thought it was so funny because at one point, these young men at the table, they were really trying to, first of all, prove that whatever they did was cool, which I don't even remember what they did, to be honest with you. But the other thing is that like they were like pulling out their IDs, trying to, I don't know if they were trying to show us how old they were or what. But the thing is that I looked at their ID and the year that they were born started with A too. And I was just like, in what world does this flirting thing happen with people who are born in the new millennium when you are older? I don't know. I think I'm also having kind of like a little bit of like a ponder about being a little bit older now. And just yeah, just thinking about like now there's a whole world of like people that are even like 10 years younger than me who are perfectly capable of going out and having jobs and I guess like flirting with women and all of that good stuff. So yeah, anyway, like that kind of I think that was kind of like the turn off for me. I think like everyone else really liked to be, a little flirtatious, which I think is awesome. But I think, when you're just looking at like what people do compared to the things that you have in your life and the ID being so young, being around people that are so young doing stuff. I don't know. I think that I'm happy to be not in their place. But anyway, that's my ramble about bottomless brunch. Y'all know that I love bottomless brunch, and there will probably be plenty more of experiences coming up. But let's go ahead and talk about how to get a job after your PhD. And yeah, it can be really hard, as in some areas, look, there is not a lot out there. I experienced this when I moved to the UK while finishing my PhD in education. If you've missed me saying it 20 million times in the previous podcasts, you can find more information about myself and my PhD and moving to the UK during my PhD on my previous episodes. However, I definitely I started my PhD in education, in educational leadership, I should say, because I was working as an assistant director in a school in the US. And yeah, during that time, met my husband, moved to the UK. I moved to the UK right as I was starting like the final dissertation writing phase. And my PhD program was online. So, I could just do all of that online. But once I finished it, I discovered that when I was looking for a job in research, there was not a lot out there. And on top of that, interviewing in the UK was a whole different scope as well. So today, yeah, let's talk a little bit about how to be marketable post your research and during your PhD research career, how to kind of explore the playing field a little bit, and let's talk a little bit at the end about how you can improve your interviewing skills a little bit, okay? So first of all, I've talked about before the season of the yes. This is a season that I am in where I am saying yes to everything. And I think that this is so important for PhDs and researchers who are looking to kind of be stable in the job market, especially in the UK where there's not like a lot of permanent research positions. A lot of them are, contractual, a lot of them can be short term. So, what I have started doing is just saying yes to everything. And that means saying yes to meetings on, various different projects, meetings for various different research groups. I go to, various conferences and things like that. But here's the kicker, I go to stuff, whether it is in my realm, in my field, or not. If somebody is like, oh, hey, I'm doing a meeting for this potential research project, like on this thing that you have no idea about, I'm like, hey, can I tag along? Can I go? Can I look? And so that's something that I would definitely suggest that you start to do even before your PhD is done. Just go to your professors, if you have a research cohort, go look around your campus, make sure you read the campus emails. I'm really guilty of not reading my university's emails emails, but like, look, when you start reading those little email blasts, there's so much stuff out there. And yeah, just go to stuff that you're interested in, just show up to stuff. And I know that sounds like it could be a lot of work, and it is, to be honest with you. However, the goal is to make acquaintances, show your face, show your interest, and in that way, then people know that you're out there ready to get to work and get down and dirty with the research. This can also really be useful for, I found this in the past. This is like super, super important. Yeah, going to like, yeah, if you can go to pre-proposal research meetings or co-creation meetings and stuff like that. This way, I've gotten a lot of experience in working with like developing different methodologies for a lot of different types of projects. So now I have like a bunch of skills from like projects that I've not necessarily worked on, but like just went to the meetings and engaged within those meetings, that I can use in interview skills and stuff like that in the future. So yeah, I think really the research game, it really is a who you know type of game. And once you start getting into it, you're gonna kind of find like the connections, like the interweavings of different people and different groups, and you're gonna start to really understand how the research world works as well. So I mean, look, I'm the most interested. I know I talk like this and it sounds really exciting and all that stuff, but I'm the most introverted person in the world. So if I can do it, you can do it. Okay. So now let's talk about yeah, getting out of our comfort zone a little bit. Another big proponent to this is not keeping yourself in a box. And I want to talk about that in a couple of different contexts. So first of all, like I said, I got my PhD in education. However, when I got to the UK, there was not a lot of research out there on education. So I started having to apply to things in similar fields like social care, for example. So when I got into social care, a lot of my skills were transferable. So don't limit yourself to only wanting to research, especially like early in your career where you kind of like need more of the experience. Don't limit yourself to only wanting to research within your own field. Just put yourself out there to find like those parallel fields. Because in reality, for myself, even though, I was like, oh, no education, working mostly in social care and now a little bit in healthcare as well, it kind of like really encompasses education in a sense. And it really makes me feel like the goals that I had as someone that wanted to research in education, it really feels like they're still being met, but even in a bigger way, because now I'm not only working with schools, but I'm like working with entire communities. I also want to point out that, and this might be like more of a UK context. I'm honestly not sure because like the only research that I've done in the US was the research for my PhD. But I found that like in the UK, probably about a good like 50% of the projects that I have worked on so far, they have exclusively hired me simply because I have the PhD. This is again a little bit of a cultural difference in the UK, or in the US rather. They tend to want you to have the PhD before you research, but in the UK, a lot of people can research and have academic careers before they get the PhD, which I kind of like because it opens up research for a lot of different types of people. But yeah, there's been sometimes where in fact, like there's a few projects that I'm on right now that when I started them, I had absolutely no idea about what was going on in the topic of the project, but they hired me because I have the qualifications and the training in research that they need to kind of, make sure that they're doing things the right way, that they have an expert on like qualitative research methods. And so that's one thing to keep in mind as well when you're searching for a job that is not, yeah, again, don't necessarily just stick it into your own field, but there's other people that are willing to hire you simply because you have the qualification. And the last thing I want to mention and kind of like getting out of your comfort zone is find the things from your field that make you different in a new field if you decide to delve into a new field, right? So being in education, of course, I've got a lot of experience with like curriculum design and making things like fun and engaging and things like that, which I mean, I don't know if a lot of people think, oh, research is fun and engaging. However, one of the things that has really made me stand out is my outputs because I started, suggesting like, hey, I can make these learning resources for people that, after the project, so they can learn how to research themselves or how to understand the findings and the outcomes of the projects better. And so for every project that I do now, I start just inserting, that I can do these like really exciting, creative, beautiful things that, I create in Canva and they have links and they're digital and interactive. And that's a skill that I've learned from my personal field of education. So what I'm getting at is don't let yourself feel like you're, going up a creek without a paddle when it comes to maybe considering changing your scope of what you'll research. But there's definitely going to be skills that if you're transferring from a different field, other people that are in that field don't have. So consider that and figure out how to use it to your advantage. So those are just a few things I've done. Basically, yeah, networking the crap out of myself, meeting new people, putting myself out there, even though, I don't want to, or maybe I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. I'm just like, I'm just taking the dive. And then getting out your comfort zone, don't limit yourself to, a certain field or a specific thing that you want to study. That's how I have taken, my first project was a 5-month project that I was supposed to be working like 10 hours on. And now I've made it into like this whole like full-time research career almost 2 years later. So now I want to give you a few tips on interviewing because look, interviewing for I think for research and in the UK is not for the faint of heart. Okay, so to be fair, I fully acknowledge that yeah, I changed careers coming from the US to the UK. So maybe in a research career like this is typical, but it really was a learning curve for me, which was interviewing. And so I feel like in the US, a lot of times people will they'll base your interview off of like your personality. There have been times in the US where I've been hired for things when they were like, well, you didn't necessarily have as high a qualifications, but you had the personality, and so that's why we wanted you. However, in the UK, they are definitely more so like, how do you meet each essential criteria? And so it's been something that's been really complicated for me because I kind of found that I couldn't wing it anymore on my personality. And I didn't want to. I mean, I've been really explicit about how, like, I didn't want to come to the UK and try to, like, bring this, like, big, kind of fake American personality. But, yeah, trying to learn how to hit every point in an interview effectively has been really, really challenging. I've definitely bombed a few interviews, and I never used to have that problem in my entire life. So let me tell you what you're gonna do when it's time to interview for a research role. So first of all, what I do is, you go to the job description, and usually in the US or in the UK rather, they have some sort of like attached description, and it has like a box of like essential criteria and how they want you to meet it. So what I do is I just take all of that information, I go into ChatGPT, and then I ask it, can you prepare me some interview questions? And usually I ask it, can you focus specifically on the essential criteria and how I meet it? And so then ChatGPT will give me maybe like 20 questions or so. And what I do is I just go through and I make, bullet point answers. If there are some things that I don't necessarily meet the criteria for, I still go to ChatGPT and ask ask it to help me come up with like an alternative, like how can some of my skills be transferable to this point. And so I think overall, concentrating on those essential wants that they want from a candidate is super, super important because they really want you to nail every single point. There has been times, and again, it might just be a UK thing, but there have been times where I've gone to an interview and I've simply missed out on one point and I didn't get a role because I didn't explicitly explain how I met that one essential criteria. So yeah, just go ChatGPT, let it ask you 20 questions. You know, the last few interviews that I've been on after I started doing this, a lot of those questions are very, very similar to the ones that ChatGPT has given me. And then, yeah, just put some bullet points of answers and then just practice that. I usually just spend like literally like a whole work day before an interview just practicing all of my answers and stuff like that. And that has helped me so much, you know, just like really being more confident in my interviewing skills and also getting like a lot better feedback and things, even if I don't end up getting the role. But there have also been times where, you know, maybe I didn't get the role, but I found that like since I've been really working on my interview skills, people have actually offered to, you know, have like a little meeting with me to like further discuss how I can not only like interview better in the future, but also like get into maybe like the field of research that I was interviewing for. Overall, look, the world is your oyster and you should grab it. So, so yeah, just go out there, do the thing, be the best that you can be. And hopefully, this has given you a few tips in how you can snag your next research role. Like I said, like, yeah, since I've been networking, really, I have been continuously rolling in the contracts. And so I haven't really had to search for new jobs because people are just asking me now. And, you know, like the more that I put out excellent work, the more that I show that I'm go getter and driven. Usually, yeah, within like the project, the first few weeks of being on a project, I really just like bang out everything, even if it's like a little bit more work than I necessarily should be putting in. You know, I just go to it to try to really prove that I'm worth it and that, you know, I should be considered for other opportunities. So, anyway, you know the deal. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask. But in the meantime, my inbox is starting to pop off with the editing. Okay, I know like the semester is getting closer and closer to the end, even though we're kind of only like mid semester. It's going to go real fast from here, y'all. So, if you have any dissertations, proposals, paper, coursework, journal articles that you need editing, please feel free to contact me. You can get a hold of me at mandykf@gmail.com. That's MANDIE, kangaroo foxtrot at gmail.com. You can also reach out to me on my website, www.drmandyedits.com. Doctor is spelled out, Mandy is spelled out, and edits is with an S. drmandyedits.com. If you are interested in other little tips and writing hacks on research, definitely go check out my TikTok at Life with Dr. Mandy, and just see all the good, crazy stuff that I got going on over there, y'all. Okay? Well, in the meantime, go talk to yourself in a mirror and practice your networking skills because you're gonna need them. But I'll talk to you soon. See ya, bye.